Hey guys, welcome to the channel. OnePlus just dropped the 9 series a couple of days ago, and since then it's been everywhere. Today we're going to talk about how the OnePlus 8 Pro stacks up against the OnePlus 9 Pro and which one should you get right now. So let's get into it. Let's start with the design. The design hasn't changed so much on the front, but at the back you see a very different camera setup with the 9 Pro. The 9 Pro has got the Hasselblad partnership, which the OnePlus 8 Pro did not have. The screen has curved a little bit lesser than what the 8 series had. OnePlus has still stuck to the alert slider, which is a really good thing, and the bottom also is pretty similar to what the 8 Pro had. The volume rocker and the power button are at the same places, so that's good. Moving away from the design, let's talk about the screen or the display. Now the display is a 120Hz Quad HD Plus OLED display, which is one of the best out there even now. With respect to what OnePlus added in the OnePlus 9 Pro is an LTPO panel, which exactly does the same thing, but the refresh rate is variable from 1 Hz to 120 Hz. So the display is going to automatically adapt to what is there on the screen and whether it needs to go down to 1 Hz or to 120 Hz. You can still put it to a 60 and lock it to a 60 Hz as well, like what you could do on the OnePlus 8 Pro. This will save a little bit of battery life, but I have never seen a problem with the OnePlus 8 Pro's battery. It is an excellent battery life. With that, while we look at the differences between the 120 Hz and the 60 Hz in slow motion, let's talk about what the real differences are in specifications with respect to these displays. So we have a 1440 into 3216 pixels on the OnePlus 9 Pro, while we have 1440 into 3168 pixels on the OnePlus 8 Pro at a 513 ppi density, while the 9 Pro is at a 525 ppi density, which means that the 9 Pro is a little more sharper, but it is something which you will not notice with that many difference in the pixels. Both support Corning Gorilla Glass 5, so there is no change there, and both have an always on display. So both the phones have the same peak brightness at 1300 nits, so there is absolutely no difference between the screen except the LTPO part, which is just to save battery life, as I said. Now let's look at something more interesting, which is the performance, and this is where we'll start seeing differences. So while talking about the OnePlus 8 Pro, we are looking at a Snapdragon 865 chipset with an 8 or 12 GB of RAM depending upon the storage you choose. The OnePlus 9 Pro is a Snapdragon 888 processor with again 8 or 12 GB of RAM depending upon the storage you choose. So now we know that the RAM is not a problem. Let's talk about the processors. Now between the 865 and the 888 Snapdragon processors, obviously if you're going to put in a lot of video rendering or play a lot of games, then I would say you choose the Snapdragon 888. But if you're going to do day-to-day tasks and sometimes or occasionally play games on it, then the 865 would do you just fine. Now performance also is driven by the software. So the OnePlus 8 Pro and the OnePlus 9 Pro both come with Android 11 and Oxygen OS 11. OnePlus 8 Pro will still get the Oxygen OS 12 and maybe the 13 after that. So the updates are still going to come. That's not where I see the problem. So you're going to have the newest software available out there with the OnePlus 8 Pro as well. So basically you have all the features with the OnePlus 8 Pro which you have with the OnePlus 9 Pro as well, right from the small tweaks which Oxygen OS does, like adding a canvas to your lock screen or having an always on display like we spoke about. It's all going to be there. So according to me, it is going to come down to a personal preference if you want the best or the latest chipset out there, or if you're okay to spend a little lesser and get a chipset which is as powerful. Let's quickly talk about the battery life. Now, the battery life with the OnePlus 9 Pro is a 4500 mAh battery, while the OnePlus 8 Pro is a 4510 mAh battery. So not a significant difference there. It will come down to how energy efficient the Snapdragon 888 is versus the Snapdragon 865, and we can also see a lot of difference with respect to the charging. Now, the 9 Pro has a 65 watt charging, which is 1 to 100% in 29 minutes, while the OnePlus 8 Pro is a 30 watt charging, which is 50% in 23 minutes. Now, that's a real difference which you need to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about the camera, and here things get really different because OnePlus has partnered with Hasselblad, as I said, this year, and they are really focusing on the cameras, but you still get a 48 megapixel wide sensor on both the phones with a laser autofocus and OIS. You still get a 8 megapixel telephoto lens with a 3x zoom on the OnePlus 8 Pro and a 3.3x zoom on the OnePlus 9 Pro. So no major difference there. Now, the OnePlus 9 Pro does come with a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, and the OnePlus 8 Pro comes with a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. And the last one is a 2 megapixel depth camera for the OnePlus 9 Pro, which I will not focus on too much. And the OnePlus 8 Pro has a 5 megapixel color filter camera. Talking about the real differences, we would see a lot of difference with respect to the color calibration on the OnePlus 9 Pro. If you are not too much into point and shoot and you like to edit your images, I think both these phones can do really good to you. I'm not worried about how the OnePlus 8 Pro is going to perform because it is a really good phone, and the OnePlus 9 Pro isn't going to be such a large leap that the OnePlus 8 Pro cannot take care of. So upgrading for the camera or discarding the OnePlus 8 Pro for the OnePlus 9 Pro solely because of the cameras is not something which I would recommend. Now last, let's look at the speakers, and this will be the final one. They both come with a dual speaker setup, so you have a front firing as well as a bottom firing speaker. So there is not much difference which I expect with the speakers, and I will keep quiet so that you can hear the OnePlus 8 Pro. The 11 series had, and the 10s before that, and the 10. But this year, it is a nice boxy design, which frankly I prefer. It has the same notch, which I'm not a big fan of, but once you start using it, it grows on you. On the sides, it's a stainless steel body. Now that's the end of the video. I think the speakers did really well. To sum it up, I feel that the screen is not too different. The cameras do have a new name, but in the real world, they don't matter as much. With respect to the other features, I think the charging takes a leap with the OnePlus 9 Pro, but the battery life does not. The processor is a little better, but is it that much significantly better? I don't think so. The OnePlus 8 Pro is an excellent phone. I still recommend it. And that's all from me. As usual, thanks for watching.